This is Sid.
Sid! Hi, it's Vanessa from LA Kush.
What are you doing?
I'm buried underground.
Oh, okay.
I'm really glad you called. This is my 24-hour supervised self-burial challenge. I'm gonna be in this box for the next 24 hours underground, buried. It's not so bad. My bro, Logan Run, is supervising and running the live feed. Thanks to him, I'll be safe. You said I had to find my own luck, right?
Yes.
Look, people in Russia are burying themselves for 24 hours for luck.
Those Russian videos, they have millions of views. Do you know what kind of money we can make with those views, man?
No. It looks insane, but if you're searching for luck, then this could be the thing for you.
Holy shit! Yo, Sid, I have some 10,000 people watching.
Logan, I lost you. Logan, let me out!
I hope everything is going great in the box.
I've had enough.
Sid!
Take it.
So what do you do?
I'm a small commodities trader.
Really?
Let me out of here!
That's weird. Must have fallen out in the car.
I want to kind of start with Paul, if you don't mind. You've been doing this a long time, and this is only your second feature per se, but you've been making music videos and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious from the first feature that you did to this one, which are vastly different in many ways, but the approach seemed to be a little bit different too. It seemed to be more you were playing toward the strengths of your music video background. Would that be fair to say? Did you feel like you were looking for a project that kind of did that, play to your strengths a little bit?
I think we all do that naturally, right? You know, as artists, you know what I mean? You, especially as you get older, you realize what your strengths are. But no, I didn't approach it with a music video, you know. It was just because we wrote it too. So it was really a passion project. You know, but I think my strengths are, you know, because I've done so many commercials and videos, I'm a visualist, you know, and that the visual style and, you know, with regards to photography, production design, the whole thing is elemental for me. It's important. And I think that definitely translated into this film because it's kind of there's a fantasy element to it. It's a little, you know, it's a little out there. So it allowed us to be much more, creative than we'd, you know what I mean? Visually creative than we'd normally be, right, Jimmy? Inside the house and all that, it was kind of, you know, we went for it.
Yeah, I think, you know, the incredible thing is like the intent was to make a great little indie feature that was, you know, kind of different but original and funny and engaging and something that was exciting for us. So, you know, I think it's like Paul says, it's like you naturally fall back on their strengths. But I don't think for any of us it was conscious. It really was more of this just really crazy story that they came up with that we all wanted to tell.
Yeah.
What really gravitated you towards Sid, James? I'm curious. Is that kind of you had to look at this character and go, "This is pretty rich. How am I going to add my process to this?"
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I kind of identified with him pretty quickly. The same way that the story kind of unfolds, you know, which is not a spoiler. It starts off with my character getting evicted. Let's just say I've been in that position before. I've been in similar positions, not exactly the same positions, but I've been in some of the positions that were very similar to Sid. And, you know, that made it very, very easy for me to identify with him.
Yeah.
A lot of method acting then.
I mean, you could say it was. I guess it would be method acting since I did live it. I mean, that wasn't the intention either. I know. I will say it was very organic. Yeah, the whole process.
And the character was molded. You know, it's interesting what you're saying, Joe, about using your strengths. Like meeting Jimmy and having known him for a while from the past and then reconnecting, it was obvious. Like as soon as I met, because we had a different idea for the character. And then as soon as we met Jimmy, it was like, that's the character. So he put so much of himself into it that to me, it was beautiful to watch him do it because I didn't even feel like you were acting, Jimmy. It was like, so, do you know what I mean? You just turned it on.
I was able to let myself go with you. Yeah. That's the joy of it, really, is if you can let yourself go in anything that you're doing, it's kind of what they call that zone. I like to think of it as the zone. Then there's no other place you really want to be as an artist or performer. Like you want to be in that zone. And everything, it's incredible talking about this in hindsight now, because come to think of it, especially with you, Paul, sitting down from the moment I read the script to the moment we sat down and started to talk about the idea, because it was really rough general. Sid was like this rough general character. It wasn't specific. All the pieces seemed to organically, again, just really sort of fall into place. And that you couldn't really ask more for any sort of project. Yeah. Because it's all the signs are pointing in the right. It feels like all the signs are pointing in the right direction.
And it's like making a film is time management, right? You have only a certain amount of time, and we had 12 days,
especially indies.
Yeah, we had 12 days, micro budget. I mean, this was a self-funded movie, so we were really up against it. So we kind of needed to typecast in a way, like especially with a lot of the other characters. I'm not afraid of that. I'm like, put the character that is the character into the film. And with Jim, I'd never seen Jimmy do anything like this before. So at first I'm like, I don't know, would this work? But upon meeting him and then seeing his interpretation of the character, it was amazing. And so he had free reign really to improvise if he wanted, and it was interesting because remember, James, after the film, I was like, man, you did a ton of improvising. And I was like, no, you said, no, I kind of started. It felt like improv to me, right? Remember, Jimmy, I kept saying that.
That's how great it, honestly, I mean, I don't want to blow sunshine up your booty, but it really is how great you wrote the script. I mean, when you hear actors say, it really isn't me, it's in the writing, it's true. Yeah. If you're given a great blueprint for a house and you follow that blueprint, it's going to be magnificent.
There was definitely very strong motivation for his character. Like, he was kind of, cordoned in to only, and that makes it more difficult, I think, because you get limited expression, you know what I mean? Because of his state of mind meant that all that stuff came to play. The talent that Jimmy's had over 30 years of acting it came true in this, that because he had to put a lot of himself into it.
How much of that, you speaking of the improv aspect of it and making it look like improv, how much of that went into the choices you made of going wider and giving him that range? Did that help that process a little bit for you, Jim and Paul? Was that something that you consciously designed so that you could give him a little bit more room to roam around a little bit?
Yeah, the film was shot in masters. Going into the movie, I knew I didn't want to shoot it like A/B cutting television. We did a little bit of that, but as we get into relationships, we actually move closer to the actors. And the first time you see individual shots like that is when Logan and Sid are actually together. I wanted to make it cinematic, and I mean in as much as let the image tell the story, let the actors move through the frame and act. Yeah, and you're right, absolutely, that you noticed that. It was to give him space because his background and his environment reflected him so much. Right. That it was, and this film is a portrait, to me. It's a portrait study of a character. Yeah. That's why you're with him for the first 30 minutes of the movie. And it's interesting because he's not even really a likable character in the beginning of the film. And that was important. I'm like,
hey, guys, I'm sitting right here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm talking about I was saying, if I could take someone unlikable, and by the end make you love them for all their fault, that was one of my motivations with the character.
That was the joy again of reading the script and being a part of it. Is whenever you do a film or you're making a song or an album, you're on a journey, and so if you can understand clearly this journey you're on, and really the journey is about especially with storytelling, it is about arcs. Mm-hmm. Where does your character start and where does your character end up? And that's the story. Truly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you feel that the space that you had though, did that help your process a lot?
I did. Again, it seemed to me a very organic experience. It was definitely a whirlwind shooting a movie in 12 days. This whole thing in 12 days. So we were under the cuff and under the gun, and when we're moving fast. But that being said, it's a lot more conducive when you have a set and an environment where you can move fast and you can stay organic. You don't have to force it. Yeah. So that helped us move a lot faster than having to force things.
Nice.
So, I think...
Let me tell you, when we went into the location, it happened to be my brother's house. Jimmy saw the set, and he goes, "Oh, I'll just stay here." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, He went full immersion, stayed at the place. Like, it was unbelievable, man. He just became, like, overnight. I couldn't believe it because I was like, is he doing this for me? I'm like, is he just being like, super team player? And it wasn't that at all. He just it was really fascinating, man. His commitment was beyond. Truly.
That's the joy as an actor for you to allow me and give me the freedom and the key to open the door to unlock it so I can immerse myself. That's the joy for me of being an actor, is immersion and is performance. For me, I'm most alive when I'm on set working. So everything that we prepare and everything that we do as actors has to happen on set, because once I walk away, I can't do anything else. It's out of my hands. Yeah. So I've found very early on, fortunately, in my career, the joy of production in itself. Yeah. Really, this is the moment that we've been waiting for. When you audition, when you dream, all those things, not just as an actor, but as a filmmaker, as a DP, it's all in doing it, that and the action of it. And that's where the real excitement happens. Yeah,
sure. I mean, he was the first person on set every day, right?
Yep. Yeah, waking up on set was fantastic.
Yeah. We don't get there, and he'd be like, "Morning." Usually, where's the actor? Get him out the trailer. He was. We never waited for Jimmy once. That and that was true brotherhood. Like, we've become good friends after the film, because that's what it's all about. Do you know what I mean? People that give that much. You know what I mean? And all my.
I mean, at this point in both of your careers, it's all about passion and following the passion projects, right? I mean, this business inside and out now, and it's kind of like the pitfalls of it. What's wrong with it. What's right with it, and it's kind of just doing what you want to do at this point, right? I mean, that's kind of
and if I have to pay for it myself, that's what I'm going to do, because films don't have to cost a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a team of people, and you have a little bit of equipment, it's all surface. You could shoot a feature film on 8mm. That's the surface. It's what's behind the surface of the image that matters.
You could do it on your phone nowadays too.
People have, right? And they've won Sundance Grand Prize juries for
that. So 4K on your phone. That's insane.
Those iPhones. And that, I think, is the beautiful thing about it to me, is that now it's in the hands of the people. Like, there's no excuse now. Like, when we were kids growing up, we had to go. I was Super 8. We had to send it off to Germany, get it processed, get it back, project it. It was a thing. Now it's like, okay, here you go. It's all yours. And
but that being said, though, you mentioned it already. You wanted this to be cinematic. You wanted this to appear like it was going to be on a big screen and be a movie in that respect. And that's kind of the difference, right? I mean, people can shoot things on their phones. They can shoot things on 8mm. But when they shoot things and put it together, sometimes it doesn't cohesively look like a movie should look.
Right.
And so that was very important to you. Obviously, you mentioned that. So you were thinking about that aspect of it as much of anything as well.
Yeah. I definitely, because I definitely went into the film knowing exactly how I wanted this thing to look. But Jimmy, I'll attest, I did storyboards, like 200 pages of storyboards, right? These books where I literally, because we prepped for 3 months, right, Jimmy? And I just did the boards, and because I wanted to make sure going in that I dotted and crossed my T's, you know what I mean? So by the time we got to the set, I don't think the boards came out once, did they, Jimmy?
You had them memorized pretty much.
But it wasn't even that. It was like, in a way, doing the boards was the process of really kind of the surgery. Do you know what I mean? Where you dig in, and then going on set, because I'd already kind of figured that out in my head. I wanted to rock and roll it on the set, and you know that Werner Herzog line, you know, storyboards are for cowards. You know, I was like, fuck it. I was like, let's just see if on the day I can trust my instinct, and that's what happened. I mean, you know, I felt we were in such a small room, Joe.
Yeah.
13 by 13. You know, in that main room, that we had to find inventive ways to continually cover it from different angles. That was a challenge, man. Like,
yeah, sure, absolutely. You know, the other challenge with films like this that are tricky is getting the tone right, because comedically, this film has a certain way that it presents itself comedically, and that can go south very, very fast and can be very misinterpreted. Yeah. And so there had to be a careful tightrope, I imagine. Did you put a lot of thought into the script, or was that more of you putting that in the hands of the actors and letting the actors kind of walk the tightrope and see how far they can stretch it?
Well, I think, you know, we weren't consciously it's situational, right? There's no joke. Maybe there's one joke in the film. It's situational. So to me, the humor comes from the situations and the reactions rather than straight up comedic performances. But there's something really funny about the way James performs this film. It's like, it's so tragic, but you know, and I don't know, you know,
I think it's also very heartwarming.
It is. But I knew we were making a film that was funny, but you know, comedy thriller. Like, it was a hybrid, because I knew I wanted to make a stoner comedy, right? Yeah. And I also knew I wanted to make a contained thriller. So, and I mean, I've written 20 scripts, but and a lot of them have been contained thriller. After Buried with Ryan Reynolds, that was it. I was like, I have to make a film in a small space. But then I wrote a bunch of scripts. Someone trapped in a trunk. Someone did it, and then this one came around, and it was the concept of the box underground, and that shot of him in the. It kind of stemmed from that, of trying to make something funny but scary but ridiculous. You know, there's a ridiculousness to this, there's an absurdist element to the film. That's important. That's a big part of it, is that, you know, because I mean, I'm a smoker, I'm a stoner too, and we're all absurd. Like, right, Jimmy, we come up with a crazy, you know, and and we wanted the film to kind of reflect our own mind state of, like, you know, to fucking take everything so seriously. Just, you know, see the humor.
This movie has a lot of heart. You know, you really care about these characters, and I think that's very important too. Like I was saying before, when we were preparing and I read the script, I loved it. But as we were filming, that's when I truly fell in love with everybody during the filming process. All the characters, all these situations that were, you know, nerve-wracking or crazy. Part of the fun of it and the humor of it was playing it with heart. To play it with heart. Because that's what's so tragic, is when you mean, you know, people who mean so well and keep fumbling and keep falling over on it, and they do everything they can and they keep falling over. You know, not that I'm this character at all, but one of the funny things about Harrison Ford's Han Solo is Han Solo always acted like he was in control, but he never really was.
Yeah.
He was always stumbling and making mistakes and act like he meant to do. That was the humor of it. But there was a heart in that you adored that character, because there's a genuineness in that, you know, sort of clumsiness. Because we're all clumsy.
I'm curious too how much Coy and Tina added to your process and gave you life, because you've spent the majority of this film at the beginning by yourself, and then, I mean, obviously you don't shoot it that way, or maybe you did. I'm finding a lot more that people are shooting in sequence a lot more, which is crazy. But
difficult.
But the idea of you being in your own mind and having to interact with basically nothing around, and then having these characters play your foils for you and kind of help you, kind of guide you, how much did that matter to you, and what did they offer to your process?
Quite a bit, actually, because as you see in the film, there was a lot of stuff where I filmed by myself. So, and as much fun as it is too, and I enjoy performing by myself, it's great to work with other actors too. And they, you know, Tina and Coy are already such kind of great actors before they ever stepped on set. So they bring this joy and this energy. And again, it's very organic. There's nothing forced there. So there's so much to give when you can all show up again. And, you know, so I was talking about the process being in the moment while we're doing it. Yeah. And everybody steps on and everybody's excited to be there and everybody's giving their all. And when you start throwing in all your little pieces into the pot, and you reach in and start to taste that there's these flavors that you didn't foresee coming, or you didn't expect. And so there was a lot of unexpected gifts that were happening between the actors as we performed, because we all have our own idea. So yeah, and it wasn't just, it was all the actors brought something to it. MC Light, Jerry Bednob, Margaret Cho, they all brought something unique to the character that made it, a real joy to to film with, as crazy as those scenes were.
It's interesting that we got all of our first choices with the actors.
Nice.
Like we knew we wanted Margaret, we knew we wanted Tina, because of who they are and what they bring as actors. So, with Tina, it's interesting because she just knew instinctively how to play this, because it's a role reversal, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy's the damsel in distress in a way. You know what I mean? It's a definite psychological role reversal. I wanted to create a really strong female character that would take no for an answer, and is not a negative person, not aggressive, but has will. And her willpower is what helps Jimmy in the end.
About underlying tones and themes and things like that, the one that really stuck out to me was kind of using social media as a platform and the toxicity and absurdity of it at times. Yeah. And I'm kind of curious from both of you, actually, since I have both of you to ask this question about, when you delve deep into it, when you kind of did your research or you kind of looked at it. I mean, obviously, comedic effect, it helps, but the idea of it, were you more sickened by what you were discovering, or did you feel like you had kind of a weird understanding of it? Because here you are now having to use social media to promote a film and put it out there, and I'm kind of curious how all that plays into your perspective in terms of, because this was a really important moment to kind of get it. Kind of turns the film a little bit and kind of turns the screw and changes the direction a bit. It's
interesting because he starts off completely alone and then is completely exposed to 10,000 people, right? So that's a big part of it. No, it's an interesting how that happened, okay? Because COVID happened, right, at 2020, and when we were in post, and we were meant to film 20 or 30 vignettes around LA of people watching the live stream, right?
Okay.
There'd be someone in a car and someone here. And that was going to add quite a few days as a pickup shit. And it became really complicated, especially during COVID, because we couldn't. So the Zoom stuff was happening at the same time. So it just hit me. I'm like, that's it. I said, we'll create our own interface. It can be based on a Zoom experience, but not, we create our own thing. And then we put Jimmy in the sea of faces where everyone's an avatar. It was kind of playing into that disconnection but how everyone is tuned into the same thing these days, Yeah, that was definitely it was a coup when that happened, right, Jimmy? When we realized we could do this, it was like, okay, now I can have 100 people instead of 20 vignettes. And now I can use friends from all over the world. So they're all of our friends.
And only film it once. So, or, how many takes?
No, they filmed it themselves.
Yeah.
They weren't even given a tape of anything. All of those characters on the internet were given a sheet of how to react. And it was how we put that together. None of that was live. It was all done in, so that was a beautiful thing. But having friends in Scotland making tapes, friends in Africa, it was brilliant. Right? And everyone was stuck at home. So no one had anything to do. So we had that 3-month window where people were just sending, and then, that's how that happened. It didn't change my perspective towards, social media, because I've always been, I've always realized how important it is. But it allowed us to kind of put today into the film. It allowed us to put nowism in how, but it's done in a very impressionistic way, Joe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
People appearing and so it was experimental. And again, to answer your question, I didn't know whether it would work. I didn't know. I'm like, are people going to get this? Because suddenly it comes from a standard storytelling into this kind of dimensional.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's how we interact on the web. Look what we're doing now.
Yeah.
But it really comments on the disconnection, because the film's about that. It's disconnection through devices. Like, he plays video games all day. Like, he's locked into his computer.
Right.
That's what happens, right? I mean, we're all subject to that to a certain extent.
So when I meet Coy's character. I've actually known his character for some time. I've just
Right.
realized I really don't know him. I only know him online.
Right.
And our perceived personas of who we pretend to be while we're in this world where no one.
And he has that line, right, where he goes, "I don't need a friend in real life." What?
And he's like, "You can't just show up at my house, you know. You've been inviting me for years."
Yeah, I was about to just say that.
Yeah.
You always invite me.
Yeah. That's the humor right there, is in the kind of,
the absurdity of it.
The human condition, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How crazy we all are, and I guess,
or how insecure we all are.
Yeah, how
they didn't want to meet each other, really.
I guess you left out that part about living with your mom. Guess that makes us human, doesn't it?
I mean, to me, I've never made a comedy, so I didn't know whether this would work at all. And I know comedy is the hardest genre because it is all tone.
We just don't really know, and I don't think you ever really do, how people are going to react to it.
Yeah, so true. Because we've entered a lot of festivals, got a lot of no's. You know what I mean? Because our film, it's like it's not really festival fodder. It's a kind of hybrid comedy. But I really believe, I hope, because this is not about making money and getting rich and famous. This is about people seeing the film and spreading the ethos of what our movie is. And I'm hoping gamers and stoners will share it. You know what I mean? If stoners share our movie, then mission accomplished. If it just gets into that community and they enjoy it, then I'll be very happy.
You guys see a lot of Twitch streams.
We want to do a version where every time someone smokes in the film, a little pot leaf goes in the corner. After we do our initial run, we'll do
that's awesome.
A more interactive one. Yeah,
I love that. So tell me, I mean, James, just looking at your IMDb, you've got like 40 films coming out in the next year. So you guys both are very busy, and I'm kind of curious what keeps you coming back to indie, though. What do you love about indie film?
I mean, it's kind of easy, really. Like, indie film is really the only I think arena where you find people still trying to take chances, because in this day and age when everyone's so afraid of offending or not kowtowing a line, you're trapped in a box usually with studio films. And not that I don't like making studio films or television. I love working, period. I really do enjoy the process of acting. But you don't have to worry about those sorts of things, I think, as much when you're making indie film, at least until you're done. And then you hope that, your film doesn't get blacklisted or whatnot. But I mean, it really is the idea that you can tell stories in an indie form that is very difficult to tell on a studio form, just because people won't give you the money to do it. They won't give you their support. We're living in a very interesting time, and I know people have said this over the last couple decades, but that book, Easy Riders and Raging Bulls, those movies, when they took chances in the 70s and they took chances with film school students, that's something that doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
Taking chances like that, it's like they want guarantees, which is kind of impossible to do.
Yeah, I mean, Cassavetes just taking his friends and shooting on a Saturday afternoon, right?
One of my biggest inspirations, period.
Like Spike Lee making She's Gotta Have It for 70.
There's another one.
To me, and it's interesting because all my heroes are like Jim Jarmusch, And for the longest time, because I started really young, and I thought, I'll just, as I started writing, thinking, I'll just plug into the Hollywood system. I'll just make films. But it didn't turn out that way. As a writer, director, it's a lot harder to get funding for your movies. Plug in as a director with an established writer and established producer, easy. Trying to do it all. But, that's why I'm in it. And it doesn't matter. It's a learning curve. It's like Ed Wood. Oh, the next one will be better. That's what it's about to me. It's about diving in and hopefully if we get a little bit of success or people actually watch it, then it will bring investors to make the next one. We actually have another film that we've finished that's coming out next year too. So we're already in it and we're setting up the next one. So we're not waiting for anybody. Do you know what I mean? Even if it is another film at this budget, it doesn't matter. What's important is just to keep making films.
Money won't buy you happiness, Sid, right?
It'll sure buy a lot of weed.
The weed makes the world go round.